It's time for Retro Talk with Retro Rose here on
WXPM
on 98.5
FM.
Hello and welcome back to Retro Talk. This is Retro Rose with...
Hey there, hi there, ho there, the bro show himself. How you doing, Miss Rose?
I'm doing good. Are you ready for another fun episode?
I am always ready for a fun episode with you. This is one of the favorite things I get to do now, and I love doing it. And I can't wait to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
All right, we're going to see how educated Mike is. Uh-oh. He's going to educate me, actually. He probably knows more about this subject than I do.
Wait, do I know more about paper towels than you?
No, silly.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say I know more about cooking. No.
Oh, well, that's a whole other thing, too. I can make mean eggs and sausage.
We're going to talk about The Last Starfighter.
Oh, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I know that.
That's a video game.
It's a video game. It's a movie. It is a quintessential 80s film.
Do you see what I'm wearing?
I see what you're wearing. If for those
no one else can.
For those that cannot see in the studio, she is wearing a shirt that shows off the Last Starfighter arcade game as featured in the movie The Last Starfighter. And it was by far one of the best video games that you could have played in the 80s if you could find one, especially if you were in a small...
The game actually existed then?
The game itself didn't exist until after the movie, and it was a couple of different modifications that came out on some side scrollers that came out for like the Commodore 64 and things like that.
So it wasn't like a full cabinet?
No, it wasn't a full cabinet one. I think they made some in like the late 2000s, early 2010s or so that people could play or order and buy, but beyond that, you can never really play the game that was in the movie itself.
What game do you think they used to make that?
They probably modded it after most closely the original Star Wars arcade game with the vector graphics and everything. If you look at the movie...
But I mean the cabinet.
Oh, the cabinet I think was custom built. I don't think it was...
Do you think that might have been it wasn't a Tron, right?
No, it wasn't a Tron one or anything like that. It was its own kind of build. Probably closely related to the Tron cabinet itself, perhaps, but not exactly. They made their own thing.
This was all custom.
All custom because they need to be able to take shots from the movie through the screen itself or from different sides and stuff. And at one point in the film, the video game actually shakes up and lights up and does some really cool things.
And we're going to talk a lot about the film.
Yes.
And speaking of still talking about the arcade game.
Right.
Now, this was actually a way to get recruits, right?
Yes. So the basic premise of the film is you have a young lone guy on planet Earth who's...
Does it have to be a guy?
Doesn't have to be a guy. It could be a girl.
All right, because you said guy. I wanted to make sure.
That's just what the plot of the film is. But the premise of the game itself within the movie universe was it was sent out to different planets to train into
different trailer parks.
Not trailer parks.
He lived in a trailer park. It was supposed to be, right?
Actually, he lived in a trailer park, but as the salesperson Centauri says in the film, it was supposed to go to Las Vegas, where it would have a lot more people playing it and more people to try it out, and he would get a better batch of people.
Oh, no, see, I didn't even remember that. It's been a while since I watched the movie.
Yeah, but at some point, the video game that he brought from another planet got routed to this tiny little mobile home park out in the middle of nowhere, essentially, where a few teenagers and their parents lived and everything, and that's it. And he was the only one that really played the game between him and his younger brother and maybe a couple other kids there. That was it. They didn't really play it that much.
And he was really good.
He was the best.
Yeah.
So good, in fact, that it sent a signal when he won and beat the high score on it. It sent a signal out to space. The guy who brought it down, a guy named Centauri, an alien named Centauri, came back to Earth to pick him up and say, "You've been recruited, my boy, and I'm going to take you over to the
to battle for your life."
To battle.
So here's the thing. So if they would have sent it to the right city, if they would have sent it to the right place, does that mean he would have had a bunch more recruits?
Either a bunch more recruits or had a bigger sampling of pilots that he could have, or people he could have chosen from. Instead of just the main character, a guy named Alex Rogan playing it and Willie winning it and not just a bunch of little kids, it would have been hundreds, if not thousands of people playing it, and he would have had a bigger pool of people to choose from, but most likely would have chosen just one pilot from the planet Earth.
Okay, just one pilot.
Yeah.
So there's pilots from all over the galaxies.
There are pilots from every other corner of the galaxy to help defend the Kodan Armada, or defend the
Now, I say
frontier.
multiple galaxies, but there's only one galaxy in the movie, right?
Right. And what you find out is there's something called the Starfighter League, and they're trying to make sure they have enough pilots to be able to defend themselves against something called the Kodan Armada, which are these bad aliens that just want to take over. That's it. That's the basic
Now, are
premise.
they mentioned in the video game when Alex is first playing it? Does it mention these?
It does. It gives you the
does?
whole rundown. And what's really
It's
great
almost
is...
like the Star Wars game then, like you said, where it scrolls down and tells you the story of what's going on before you start playing the game.
Exactly. When he's playing the arcade game itself, it's saying you have been chosen to defend the frontier against the Kodan Armada.
I think my T-shirt actually says that.
I think it does.
Yeah, it's got all the little logos, and everybody's missing this. I'm gonna have to see if there's a way to put that whenever this.
I think so too.
Yeah. Put it up
and
on the website.
What's really great is later in the film, and we'll talk about it in a bit, is the fact that you actually hear Alex, while he's in his own ship, what they call the Gunstar, say the same lines like, "Yep, I'm ready." Starts cracking his knuckles because he knows
He just cracked his knuckles for real.
He knows what he's about to do.
That
And
Mike cracked his knuckles for those that didn't hear.
I'll do it later.
Yeah, you're screaming like I feel like going, ah.
Yes, this movie is one of those quintessential movies, and it was just after the big 3 Star Wars films, because it came out in '84, so it came out a year after Return
And
of the
this
Jedi.
is when arcades were big too.
It was when arcades were huge. So the fact that they were basically selling a movie that said, if you play an arcade game, you could be ripped
You
up into
could be
space
ripped up into space.
and fight for your
Mom,
galaxy.
give
or
me
whatever.
that game. I'm sure there's a lot of kids that wanted that game after they saw it. Where can I find this game?
Exactly, and it was like on 1 or 2 offshoot things, not
There
like
goes one of
Atari.
the ships now.
Yeah,
That sounded more like George Jetson's.
well, that's a whole other show. But yeah, this movie itself really showed that, he was a kid in a small trailer park who just wanted to get out. And he had his best girl with him. He was a teenager. They were about to graduate high school.
He was
wanted
more
to
of a
leave.
dreamer too, wasn't he?
He was a bit of a dreamer,
Just
but
like you and I.
he worked
dreamers.
hard for the people around in the trailer park. So
Yeah, he actually, that's right. He used to do a lot of the work, fixing things up and everything, doing whatever needed to be done in the park.
exactly, and he just wanted to get away, and he didn't get a loan to go to college like he wanted to, so he's going to be stuck at like the local college and be just there, and he just didn't want
very,
to be.
very depressed.
Yep. So now he gets this chance that he can go to space by this flim-flam salesman, is the best way to put it. A character named Centauri.
He had a cool fedora hat.
He had the fedora hat. He had the flim-flam suit. So background on the actors themselves. You have.
We're not even going to talk about the actors yet. I'm going to do trivia here. In a
yeah,
minute.
okay. So so basically, Flim Flam Man makes the cabinet, says he's going to sell
He is wearing a mask, though. Don't let him fool you.
right.
Just like Mike, he's wearing a mask.
Well, true. I have
He's
to
got
because
an
I have a
alien
face.
life form under here. If you've ever watched V, all.
Hey,
Mike has
listen,
to do is
I'm
rip
over
off
on the
his
side
face
here.
and-
Anyway,
He looks just like Alf.
right. I got a big
He
nose.
doesn't
I
look like
squish it
one of
in.
those V's. He won't eat mice, but he will eat cats.
That's right. Wait, no, I won't eat cats. Alf will eat cats.
Oh,
anyway,
you don't eat cats? I
no.
thought you liked barbecued.
No,
cats.
no. But
No
you
cats
have.
were harmed in this recording.
So, needless to say, you had a flim-flam man who's trying to sell these games to be able to get recruits. He recruits Alex and brings him up to space. While he's in space, he actually leaves behind what's called a beta unit. The beta unit looks and feels and is basically Alex as a replacement to let.
He's a robot. Though.
He's a robot, so people don't suspect that Alex is really gone. And this robot kind
he
of
sleeps a lot, if I remember right?
He
Doesn't
does a
sleep
little
lot?
bit.
And he's kind of, when he first gets into bed, he's kind of like all mushy, like
Yep.
almost not like a robot or something.
He's gelatinous, and he forms into the look of Alex.
But he's a robot, almost
he's a
like
robot.
almost like Terminator too, where he's very
Organic and
organic, like. But he doesn't have like a metal frame until after he forms.
Something like that,
something like
yeah.
that. I know it's kind of space age.
Yeah, and he basically messes up Alex's life a little bit with his girlfriend, with his mom, and kind of working things around the neighborhood. But while that's happening, Alex is going to space and then realizes, oh no, this is really life and death. We're going to be fighting in space against an evil force. I don't want to do this. So he ends up coming back to Earth initially. During this time,
For those that haven't heard the spoilers, you're hearing them now.
that's true. No spoilers. Sorry about that. Needless to say, he comes back. bounty hunters start coming after him, and he realizes, I need to fight for my planet, so he goes back up. And needless to say, what you see towards the last half hour or so is some of the, as of 1984, the best space battles you'll see. I would even say some of it's better than what you see in some of the Star Wars films.
I mean, you almost got the whole movie in 10 minutes, people.
Right, but I'm not going to
Just
tell you
joking.
how it ends. I won't tell you that, but it's so good. And it's one of those movies where even the score is, to me, is as iconic as the Star Wars
As the
ones.
Star Wars.
It's
score,
just,
yeah.
it's bombastic, it's fun. There's some lower tones to it. But the main march itself is very similar to that Star Wars theme that you hear, dun, 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 dun. But with this one, it's bum, bum, ba, dum, bum. And
Yeah.
it's just so good. And it's one of those movies at 84 I didn't get to see in the theater. I started seeing it when it was a movie rental in 86, 87, and it was a constant re-rental for me. If I didn't have anything else to watch on a Saturday or Friday night, I would always grab this and be able to watch it 2 or 3 times over a weekend and just enjoy it fully. Absolutely loved it.
From listening to him in the last few minutes ago, I know you like Last Starfighter.
Just a little bit.
So let's see how much you know about the actors.
Okay.
If I say Lance Guest, who was he?
Lance
in the
Guest
movie?
played the main titular character in the film, and that's Alex Rogan. He also played the beta unit of Alex
He
Rogan.
played the beta unit.
Yep.
And can you tell me what else he's done that's notable?
Well, he was actually in Halloween 2. He was one of the nurses.
Now
there.
that's interesting on Halloween too, because I guess his head hits the horn, and I love horror films, so his head hits the horn, so it's always undecided if he died or if he lived or if he just was knocked unconscious.
Right. I lean on the side that he was knocked unconscious because I'd like to see him come back, but who knows now with the current Halloween films. He was also in Jaws 4: The Revenge.
I love that movie.
It's one of those cheesy films that it's better than the 3Ds, absolutely. So it's just a fun little thing for him that he has done. And then he's done some Broadway, he's done some off-Broadway stuff and things like that. But what he's really well known for throughout everything really is Last Starfighter.
Yes.
He embodies who Alex Rogan is, that main character. And he gives probably one of the most soulful performances as the young boy going into space, like Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
He kind of typecast into that. That kind of happened to Lance Guest, and he just stayed there, and it works for him, I think.
And it's very sad whenever he first gets there on the ship, wasn't there like this battle that he thought and I don't want to say his name wrong, Centauri was supposed to be shot or something, right? Something happens, right?
During the film, of course, the film, spoilers again, when he's coming back, or when the bounty hunters come to the Earth, when Alex is now back, there's a bounty hunter there, actually played by Mark
So this
Alamo.
wasn't when he first arrives. This is after.
This is when he comes back to Earth. After he's
Okay.
gone and said, no, I don't want to fight in your war. They bring him back. Centauri actually gets shot by one of the bounty hunters on Earth. And he starts to slowly die, but he does get Alex back to the planet to be able to go back and fight for everybody.
Let me give you a spoiler. He doesn't actually die, right?
No, he doesn't die. Thank goodness. But that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, and then and Alex comes out, oh, I thought you were dead or something.
Right.
And then I was like, oh,
It's a very sad moment in the film initially when you think he's died, and it's for a good while in the film he's gone. Like the character Centauri is not seen or anything, and you think he's really dead. But yeah, that's
for some reason I was thinking that was at the beginning, but that's near halfway through it. Or
yeah, no, it's
something.
part of the narrative after he's got the bounty hunters after him. Side note: one of the bounty hunters coming after him is played by Mark Alamo, who is best known as Gul Dukat on Deep Space Nine.
Oh wow! See, I told you this guy's smart. Smart sometimes.
I know
right?
a little bit.
Smart sometimes.
I know enough to be dangerous.
All right. How about Catherine Mary Stewart? Who
Catherine
was
Mary
she?
Stewart, she played Mags, or Alex Rogan's girlfriend in the film. They were the teenage kids that loved each other. They're about to graduate high school. She was just a breath of fresh air to see a young girl in a movie like this, like played the love interest for the main character, and she actually didn't break that love for him. She got mad at him. They had little spats here and there from time to time, but she was the perfect foil for Alex Rogan herself there. And then Catherine Mary Stewart has gone on just After this, she did Night of the Comet, which was great. Then she actually did Weekend at Bernie's, which was a fun comedy to see her in. She's one of those actresses that you can look at and definitely the 80s look, like that 80s.
Yeah, had the big hair and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so much fun to watch, and you just enjoy seeing her on the screen. Like I think any guy my age, heck, any girl my age, it would be like, she's just fun to watch more than anything else. Not just pretty, but smart.
Yeah.
And smartly written and
she
smartly
actually
acted.
looks really good now. I've seen pictures of her recently. She looks really good now.
I would just judge her by just her acting ability, and great. Just fun.
Very talented.
Yep.
So are those her main, you mentioned 3 films she's been in?
That's the main ones that are like I know of that really hit me. I know she's done quite a bit more.
How about Dan O'Hurley?
Dan O'Hurley, a veteran actor, and
But who was he?
he played a character named Grig.
Now, is Greg a bad guy?
Grig is not a bad guy. Grig is probably one of the best guys you could have on this movie. Basically, Grig plays what would be Alex Rogan's co-pilot in the ship that they fly off in.
Oh, okay.
And Grig is kind of a reptilian race character. So you have Dan O'Hurley, who was like in his late 60s, early 70s doing this role. Better known to most audiences as the old man from OCP on the RoboCop film. It's the first 2 at the very least.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like you hear his voice from RoboCop, you listen to Grig and you can hear it, but he was also an old school Hollywood actor from the 60s and 70s and 80s and had this kind of deep but raspy little bit of a voice and whatnot, and had fun with it. However, when they put all this makeup on him, and if you see photos of him in this makeup,
Now, is he wearing the costume then?
he's wearing a costume. Yeah.
Does he do the voice, or is it someone else doing
No,
the
he's
voice?
wearing the whole costume. He put it on himself.
And he actually is the voice of the character.
He's
too.
the voice, like the character voice is recorded right there, and they had him doing it. And he's emoting all these facial expressions through this great 80s makeup that was done
wow.
for him. So you can tell when his eyebrows are going up or his mouth is curled or in a certain way, everything is just perfect. And he has this great laugh where he's like, "Oh, don't worry, Alex, we're going to do this."
Sounds a little bit like Elf.
Yeah, but it's this great laugh that I love. And they have this great kind of exchange at one point before they go into a big battle where they talk about their homes in the film, and between Alex and between Grig, these 2 characters. And Alex talks about how they have above ground caves that are on wheels that don't go anywhere. And I'm like, that's kind of a sad but fun way to say that you live in a mobile home.
Yeah, you live in a trailer
And
park,
Greg talks about how they live in below caves, and he's got like 6,000 kids or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
6,000 kids.
I don't even want to
Holy
imagine.
Smokes.
Right? I don't think.
Wow.
I don't think I could.
I mean, it must be like bunny rabbits.
Yep.
Sorry. I probably shouldn't say that.
No, it's true. I think it's true.
All right. So how about Robert Preston?
Robert Preston, who played Centauri. When I talked about the fact that they called him the Flim Flam Man in this movie, the producers, the writers, and everything, when they were putting together Last Starfighter, they wrote the role of Centauri as if he were the Music Man. From the musical, The Music Man, from the 50s and 60s. Personally, it's my second favorite musical of all time.
Yeah,
Between
because you were
Broadway-
talking about the theme songs before we played the theme song a little bit ago. You like a lot of the music in the movie.
In the movie, and then also what Robert Preston used to do with the with the Music Man and everything. So they wrote the role for him as the Music Man. And Robert Preston, this was actually his last movie role ever before he passed away in like 84, 85. And he was happy to do this film. He wanted to do it, and he was a consummate professional while on set with the actors, teaching them different ways to emote and do things, but just having fun with them too, and not taking it too seriously, but always on his mark, ready to go.
Having fun, like what we do when we're in here.
Exactly. And he did the kind of nuances of Centauri, saying, "Hey, I'm going to take this I wanted to get to Las Vegas, but instead I got to hear you, kid, I'm going to get you over here. I'm going to get this for you. We're going to make sure you're going to go to there, and we're going to get you the stuff, and you're going to flight suit. By the way, you're going to make all this money in Rylos." And he just was so phenomenal as Centauri, basically doing him as the Music Man. I was just enthralled. So when I realized as a kid and a little bit later as an adult that not only was Centauri Robert Preston, and I put it together with the Music Man, I was blown away. And I'm like, yes, I can see it now. And started watching everything I could and taking everything I could about this film, realizing that the producers and writers wanted him. That's the only person they pitched it to, and we're so happy that they got him. And I am too. And I think everybody who watches this film realizes they got the perfect man to play Centauri.
I really do kind of have a few questions for you.
Okay.
And that's about Alex.
Okay.
Why didn't he want to stay? Is it because he didn't realize this was real?
Stay on the planet?
When they first got him out there, was it just too frightening to realize this was real?
Exactly. He saw that he could get killed by flying into space and going against this evil force of ships coming out to the frontier to destroy everybody. He's like, wait a second, you want to put me in a battlefield? I'm just a kid from a trailer park. I don't know how to do this. I can't fly a ship for real. I just played an arcade game. Take me back, Centauri. I don't want to do this. He was scared, totally scared. And there's a couple of great lines when Centauri brings him back to Earth and leaves him, and he says, Alex goes, I'm just a kid from a trailer park. And Centauri turns to him and goes, if that's what you think, then that's all you'll ever be. And that hit me. Because you're basically locking yourself into a preconceived role of yourself of never going anywhere in life. That you're stuck where you're at. Unless you think bigger, you're not going to get past that. And I love that. That's some great writing. That's some great acting from Robert Preston and Lance Guest between that scene. It's one of those things that just really, really sticks with me. And not only that, you have the supporting cast that you had there, too, that were a lot of character actors, older character actors that lived in the trailer park, and a couple of the kids and stuff.
My uncle and my grandfather lived in West Virginia in the trailer park, and we thought about that a lot, looking at the arcade games, because there was a little shop near us when we'd stay there, and there was arcade games. But we never had anyone call.
Nobody came to take you away.
No one came to. I guess I just wasn't good enough.
And, one fun little side note, one of the kids that plays Alex Rogan's younger brother's friends is his first big movie, and now he's a well-known actor in sci-fi.
And we were just talking about him, Will Wheaton.
He had a couple. Will Wheaton. He had a couple of lines, but they were cut, unfortunately. But you can still see him in the film at the beginning in like a number 10 football jersey, and then in the background towards the end of the film when a group of people are together, and you know it's him. So
you know it's him. All right, we're going to take a break for a minute. Remember the music? Remember the movies? Remember the cars, the fashions, the news, the things that stood out during our youth? It's okay to be nerdy. Join me as I reminisce over the cartoons, the toys, and the video games of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Turn back the clock with Retro Talk.
Weekends on 98.5 XPM's $1 Million Weekend Lineup.
I'm a Starship Trooper. If I will ever say that right.
I don't know. I'm a Starship Trooper, but whenever I think of that, I think bugs.
Some of those guys actually look like bugs or lizards or something from that movie. And I want to mention a couple of them that you can maybe describe them to me and tell me who they were in the movie.
Okay.
One is Zur, if I'm saying that right, and the other one is Lord Krill.
Okay, so Zur is actually more humanoid-ish.
Is he more humanoid?
Yeah, their alien race have like really kind of big balding heads and hair around them, but they look more human, and he's the kind of traitor to his own people. So in the movie himself, he actually gives secret codes to take down a force shield for what they call the frontier around the good star systems and such. And he gives it to the Cordan Armada. And Lord Krill is actually the commander of the ship that he's on, like this big warship that carries a bunch of the fighter ships.
What's he look like?
Okay, so Lord Krill is got a burned kind of looking face, but not really. He's got this really cool red helmet, and then he's got this cool little monocle that comes on the helmet over his one eye. It's a little red monocle, so when he needs to
I think I know. It almost looks like one of those scouter things from like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly,
that comes
like
over
a meter
his
reader
eye.
or something.
Yeah.
And there's a couple points where it goes really slow, and then sometimes it flips on his eye. And I was talking with Tony at one point, and I was like, you know
That's
what?
my husband in the basement.
Yeah, he's still
if you
there.
haven't learned that one yet.
It's amazing to us that it didn't make him flinch that eye when they did the snapback or bringing it over. Like, the actor himself kept his eyes straight when doing that. And I just thought that was cool. Like, he had a very cool look, and he had a red outfit where a lot of the aliens also had red outfits as well, like these red leather space age outfits and everything.
So it was Robert Preston's character that looked like. Didn't he look like
No.
a lizard or something? I thought there was one that looked kind of like a reptile.
That would be the main aliens for the Court Anarmada, the bad guys. There's one point where a helmet comes off of one of them, and their little tiny alien eyes kind of pop out a little bit as he's starting to die, and he's like, so that's
But he looks kind of like a reptile.
a reptile / bug, kind of literally.
Oh, he looks a little bit between both.
Yeah, because the tiny eyes that pop out, but then the lips are more reptilian, I think.
And
then-
speaking of that, can you tell us more about the costumes and the special effects and stuff that happened in the movie?
Yeah, so the costumes themselves, like in the trailer park, they're typical 80s kids,
Yeah.
T-shirts, jeans, things like that. A couple of the older people in there, like suspenders and things. But the costumes for the space age characters, a little bit taken from like the Star Wars style with the kind of technicians and administrator people for the good guys. For the bad guys, they had more like leather, red or black outfits.
Are there a lot of alien type characters though?
There's one shot where you see a bunch of the aliens that are the last Starfighters that are all kind of gathered together in a briefing where Alex Rogan's
And
sitting.
that's almost like Star Wars where they're all different.
Yeah, they're all different races. One has tentacles that are coming out, including his feet. He doesn't have shoes. He has tentacles.
Oh my gosh.
And Alex steps on them by accident.
Oh.
Yeah, and they all speak alien languages, which you can't understand necessarily.
He has to wear something, isn't that right? He has to wear something so he can understand what
He can
others are
understand
saying.
everybody, yep.
Now, when he wears this device, whatever they give him, he can hear everything, understand everybody, right?
It's similar to like a universal translator for everybody. So like in Star Trek, where everybody can understand everybody, that's similar
Yeah.
to that thing. I like that they put that in the movie so people can realize, oh yeah, he can hear the aliens speak and vice
Now, what
versa.
is it they give him?
I think it was something behind his ear. I'd have to double check that.
Oh, okay, something that goes
Yeah.
behind his ear.
And then, honestly, I don't costume as much as most people, and I don't do it from time to time. I have like one G.I. Joe one. I've done like Sharknado and stuff.
Yeah, Sharknado. I was gonna.
But what I would like to do at some point is the flight suit that they have for Alex and all the Starfighters and everything. If I ever got one more costume, I'd want a flight suit.
I would do an alien. I'd do
Yeah.
an alien. But I know, speaking of flight shoots, Tony actually did an Airwolf one. Did he ever tell you about that?
I saw that before, yeah.
Yeah, that he actually wore it to Dragon Con and everything.
I could see that.
Yeah, Ernest Berg. I'm saying it wrong.
Ernest Borgnine?
Borgnine. Tony actually went up and got his autograph in that outfit.
Nice.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's very cool.
But yeah, I would love to see you cosplay as something like that.
yeah, I would love
And
the
I
helmet.
would say I knew you win.
Yeah.
Whenever you could become famous for that costume.
Because nobody's ever really done one. That's the thing. I don't think I've ever seen a Starfighter costume.
You might see one this year. We'll see.
We'll see.
But aside
so
from that,
now, you had asked
what about the special effects?
Yeah, I was gonna say the special effects are what most people who don't remember the characters remember about this film. So it was one of the very first films to extensively use computer generated graphics for its space scenes more than anything else. Everything in space that you see, aside from shots inside the cockpits and stuff, are all CGI. They're all computer generated. Now we're talking 1984 for this movie, so they're generating these scenes and everything for at least 2 to 4 years before the movie even comes out.
This comes from a computer geek, guys.
Yeah, so they take forever to render. But what a lot of people may not know is the computer that created all this, it was called the Cray computer, was built in like the mid-70s. And the special effects team that put it together actually made a pitch to a certain director called George Lucas. And there's scenes out there that you can see where they did CGI X-Wings for Star Wars as a pitch to say, hey, we can do the special effects for you. Now, George Lucas went on to do just practical effects and models and such, but they tried their hand at first at trying to do Star Wars ships in CGI, where you can actually see the ships fly in and around and above camera and towards the camera and everything, whereas before you really couldn't do that. It was always kind of side-scrolling or whatnot. So they took that almost, created a script, created a story that kind of was similar to Star Wars but not, set more here on Earth, had a little bit more fun, I think, and the fact they threw in a Flim Flam Man and the fact of Centauri, put that all together, and then threw in the CGI effects, blew it out the water. I think its special effects to this day still hold up to others. I think even what you see in this film, and this is my personal opinion, what you see in a 1984 Last Starfighter film are better than a lot, not everything, but a lot of what you see in the first Star Wars film.
Yeah.
I just think it's that amazing. Now, Return of the Jedi, pinnacle of that time for its special effects, even though it was all models, there was still a little bit of CGI in that, but not like they had in Last Starfighter. Every ship that you see was computer generated. Everything you see in space, all the planets and everything, computer generated. The graphics for the video arcade game, computer generated.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that's really cool, and it's everything from the ships to the fire effects to the little targeting systems that are targeting triangles that come out that he's using when he's trying to learn how to
when he's
shoot.
learning how to shoot. Yeah.
And then, big spoiler, towards the end they do something called Death Blossom. Death Blossom is like a last-ditch effort.
When you speak about Death Blossom, you spoke earlier about the theme music from the movie, and you're a very big fan. I think there is a soundtrack for that, too.
Yep.
Somewhere.
There's a soundtrack for that instrumental piece where he's doing that battle itself. It's one of those films where you can see the shading and the shadows and the design of the ships, and when they designed each ship, whereas today if you're going to do something in CGI, you can do it in a computer, you can take a picture of something and even have it scanned or whatnot, and you can draw out something on a piece of paper, scan it, and there you go, there's your CGI, you can do it. Back then it would have to be fully rendered or fully drawn out in like a computer assisted design or something like that, and then plot out each individual point manually, like punch something to punch it into the computer to actually create the ship. So I had to do this from every side, from every angle, then have it render. Do a single frame of rendering would take maybe half a day. And if you figure there's 15 frames or 24 frames per second in a film, half a day to do just one frame, 24 frames is going to
take forever.
12 days. Yeah. It took a lot.
It had to take it forever.
But it's so worth it when you watch it in the film. And if you see it on the big screen, it's one of those things that just really sticks out. I love every frame of this film, even to the end where you see one of the ships actually land on Earth. I won't tell why. That will spoil too much for people. But you see that one ship land on Earth, and it just looks phenomenal.
I think we've already given a lot of spoilers.
But yeah, even the small ships that are like the bounty hunters landing on Earth to try and hunt them, some of them are practical, but then you see some that are CGI. Like, it's just so good. I challenge anyone listening, if you've not watched The Last Starfighter, even if you're younger, go and watch this film. This is where you really see the beginning of CGI starting in films being used extensively in such detail that, yes, does it look dated? I will say yes, it does look dated because of its time. However, put yourself in the mindset of 1984 watching this in this big screen.
It's still a movie you can watch and enjoy.
I will not lie. I just watched it 2 weeks ago again just for myself, and I probably watched it 2 months before that, and probably about 6 months before. Like, I watched it 2 or 3 times a year.
Even with it being dated, it's a movie that anyone can enjoy.
Exactly, and not only for the special effects, but for the acting, for the story, for the fun that you have. It's just a big, bombastic space adventure. Oh, and Centauri's car. Centauri's car is freaking cool. It has gull wings like a DeLorean.
Yeah,
exactly.
Saying that from a person that actually owns a DeLorean with her husband.
Right.
Can you tell us some of the merchandise that came out? Is there any merchandise that came out, or maybe prototypes, anything you've seen, even custom made?
There's been a little bit. Back in the 80s, there was like a little ray gun, like one of those ones that you could basically do a label swap on.
Is that like a drugstore toy?
Yeah, it would make some sounds and whatnot. It didn't look like anything you would have seen in the film.
There was a laser gun, though, and it said Last Starfighter on it.
Yeah. So it was
that'd
like
be
probably
cool.
the same laser gun that was used for Star Trek or used for Buck Rogers or used for Battlestar Galactica. They just took a label off of it that said Battlestar Galactica and threw on a label that said Last Starfighter. And that's it. Now, there were some prototype action figures that they tried to put together similar to Star Wars that they shopped around, but nobody took the bite for them per se. And there's one owner who recently picked those up maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Beyond that, really the most merchandise has been in the last maybe 10 or so years between T-shirts like yourselves that you have.
This T-shirt actually has twin arcade games on it.
Yep, the 2 cabinets there.
Yeah, and it's got the little slogan that it says "Greetings."
Greetings, Starfighter.
Yeah,
You have been
Starfighter.
recruited by the Frontier to fight against the Cordan Armada.
And that's exactly what it says.
I'm not even reading it. I just
He
know
just
it.
knows it.
And in recent years, there's been a couple of made-to-order kind of figure sets that you can get that were based off of the prototypes that had their own Last Starfighter card backing and whatnot. Some people have made some custom figures from time to time. But beyond that, there's not been much. I've seen a handful of custom building sets, kind of like Lego, where you could build what they called the Gunstar, which was a ship in the film. Personally, I would love to see even like MPC or somebody like that who does model cars and model ships and everything. Even if we don't get a proper toy, I would love to see somebody come out with a model of the Gunstar at least. Because the Gunstar is an iconic ship. Like, if you see it, you know it.
Yeah, and that's the one with there's 4 sides to it, right?
Yep, it's got the 4 boosters
sides
on
and
one
the
side,
boosters, yeah.
the long nose in the front where you have the gunner and the navigator that sit there with all the guns and everything. And if you have the ship that Alex flies in the film, you have the Death Blossom modification where these 4 kind of long pieces extend out from where the rockets are, and it fires all these things as it spins around. It's one of the coolest scenes in the film, and it really showcases some of the CGI effects too. But I would love to see that, and we have not seen official.
There's never been a model kit or anything?
Not official, no. Nothing like that. There's been a couple of custom things have been put out there, but nothing officially made per se.
Now, there was a game, right?
There was a game, like I said, it was a side-scrolling game. Basically, they took something called, I want to say Zaxxon. I could be wrong on that they slapped a graphic of what looked like a Gunstar on top of it, and then it would fly, and that's what you flew the Gunstar, the Last Starfighter.
It just had the look, it had the look on a sticker or something saying Last Starfighter, I guess.
Right, and they changed the graphics a little bit, some of the music in it and such, but nothing that was specifically Last Starfighter. Again, this day and age, I could see somebody coming out with something that looked like the old Star Wars vector graphics games and do it like the original Starfighter game you see in the movie itself. That would be phenomenal. I think that would sell really well. There's been some starts and stops on people trying to get a video game out based similar on that design or even more CGI effect that looks more realistic and whatnot, but it's never really materialized. That doesn't mean that there isn't rumblings over and over again of it happening.
Yeah,
and there's been
something
rumblings for the last 5 years now. There's a script that's partially, if not fully written for a sequel.
That would be cool because,
Yeah.
I think that Catherine Mary Stewart and Lance Guest would be up for it.
They've already been, they've had discussions as I understand. They probably can't talk about it.
Yeah.
But nothing set in stone yet. And the question is, how much do they get written into the film? Now, because of their ages, they'd probably be written more as like they've been on that planet for 20, 25 years or whatnot. And they have a next generation of starfighters they're trying
And
to
they
bring
have
in.
their own kids, probably. They'll
Yep.
have their own kids by now. I would
There's
think.
talk, too, that they would maybe bring the character of Alex Rogan's younger brother up
That would be
to
cool.
be a starfighter, potentially, something along those lines. It's really
Now,
hard to say.
that's probably was a talk that was a while back, too, I would think. About
little bit
his
while back,
brother.
but,
yeah, I think Tony might have mentioned that years ago or something.
I would hope that at some point we get it because, they're talking about other franchises they're trying to revive again. I've heard recently there might be like a Voltron movie they're trying to do and things like that have never had a proper revision back up.
Yeah.
I think Last Starfighter is prime for that point. Like, we don't want to wait too much longer, not because of the actors or anything, but because this is a story that's so timeless, it could be really, really, really good if done well. And you don't want a reboot. You want a continuation of this
Yeah, I always
storyline.
like the continuations. And there's been a lot of continuations.
Right.
There's been a lot of those. I mean, just look like Beverly Hills Cop just came out.
Alex Axel F was
Yeah.
so much fun.
And let me think of some other ones that Bill and Ted came
Yeah.
out like a
Face
year
the
or
Music.
so ago. Yep. So I mean, it's around that time period where people could do that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
and if you
that-
want to do more, I would love to see him doing like maybe an animated series telling the story before we meet Alex Rogan, like how the Frontier was formed and things like that.
That would be cool. Was there ever any books, or is it just fan
there was a
fiction that
couple
they might have
comic
been
books
writing?
that came out based on the movie itself, and then novelization, but nothing really beyond that. So,
They made a lunchbox.
Tony
Oh.
said they made a lunchbox. He's in the basement, but he just dug his out and decided to get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
that's what I smell. Now I'm hungry.
Now I'm hungry for some peanut butter and jelly. Made in space.
Made in space.
Like pigs in space. It's made in space.
Oh my gosh. You know, it's a what? It's a what? It's a peanut butter
Now,
jelly
was
sandwich.
that an official thing? The lunchbox?
It was official.
Wow.
Yep. Oh yeah, we must have that. Must find that.
He must find that.
Must find that.
And there has been a lot of T-shirts.
Yes, I
There's
have
been a
one.
lot of T-shirts, and there's also a lot of art.
Yep.
At conventions, you see a lot of art.
Real quick, I have to relay a really funny story. There was one time when you and I and Tony and my wife and everybody were all hanging out together having dinner one time or lunch one time, and we didn't realize it, but Tony and I showed up and we both had on the same Last Starfighter shirt.
That one with just the
Yeah, with just
emblem.
the emblem of
Yeah.
the ships itself. And we looked at each other and went, oh. So, yeah.
Oh, you've been shopping at the same place I've been shopping.
Yep, exactly. So if you were to say that we might be Starfighter fans, Last Starfighter fans, you would be absolutely correct. We are both huge Starfighter fans, Rose is as well. Most everyone that we know knows this film and loves it. And if you haven't watched it, I highly, highly recommend it. It's one of those things that you can do. And people like this, the actors like this, are ones that you can meet at a convention such as RetroCon. You know, the one that we work with.
You can meet them at conventions like that, and there's a lot of amazing guests you could meet, like at RetroCon. And I don't want to make it all about RetroCon, but I own the convention with my husband and Mike's family, so yeah, we got to mention it once in a while.
Yeah.
Just once in a while.
Sadly, you wouldn't be able to meet Robert Preston or Dan O'Hurley. They've passed on at this point. But I recommend if you want to see a really fun film, if you want to see a precursor to The Last Starfighter, check out The Music Man. Absolutely. It is basically Centauri, but singing. That's the biggest difference.
I have never seen that. I've never seen The Music Man.
If you watch The Music Man, I guarantee you'll see.
Is it a musical?
It's a musical. It's a musical from the 60s, and it's a famous Broadway musical brought to the big screen, and brought to ultimate life by Robert Preston. And when you watch that and go back and watch Last Starfighter, aside from no singing,
You're
in Last
not even
Starfighter,
going to look at him the same way.
you'll know. You'll be like, that's exactly why they hired him for the film. Needless to say, there's so much for this film that it has for itself that more people need to see it. And if they go out, watch it, and enjoy it, I know they will. So, you were
It's a
talking to
highly recommended classic.
Absolutely. It is one of those underrated, not even under the radar classics. It's just a classic. And I recommend it to everybody. So my question to you is, Miss Rose, you've seen the film, you enjoy the film too.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite part of the film?
My favorite part of the film is at the very ending, when Alex comes back and gets a sweetheart and they go off in space forever.
Yeah.
That's one part Mike never mentioned.
No,
That's why the ship lands and picks her.
Yeah, because Alex is like, I can go back and get one person. And his little brother's like, can I go with you? No, Squirt, you can't go. Nope, there's only room for one of us. It's for Mags. That's what he calls her. And I'm just like,
only room for one other rider, right?
Yep, that's it. And it's such a great shot. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that the mobile home park they live in is called, and the restaurant and everything where they have the arcade game is Starlight Starbright. And that's what the name of the whole kind of community is. And the fact that that's there is the perfect kind of encapsulation of the entire film.
Because he made a wish and it came true.
He made a wish to try and get out of that town, and he got to go out of that town. So,
and I remember everybody in the park was so proud of him.
they were so happy they were happy that he got what he wanted, and he saved Earth. Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest,
He saved Earth and he became a hero and was happy ever after.
they all met an alien because Greg came on down to say hi too, which I thought was cool. Like,
yeah, that was pretty cool.
he came down, so you had
I
Dan
remember
O'Hurley
that.
in the makeup, in like, hot weather heat, talking to you people.
I remember he said something to Alex's little brother, and he says the kid turns around and said something to him. I can't remember what he said, but he says, "You hear that or something?"
You hear that, you slobs? I'm famous.
I'm famous. Yeah.
So, and he's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to get to go. And you get a kind of a precursor to the film. At the beginning of the film, he's wearing a spaceman helmet and shooting people for aliens.
So that's a teaser.
That's a teaser of what's kind of to come at that
right,
point.
so-
As if The Last Starfighter didn't.
We're going to have to wrap this up, Mike. I know it's tough.
That's okay. It's all right.
But we want to thank you again for joining us for Retro Talk. And Mike and I will be back again in the future and hopefully have Kevin joining us again.
That's right. Be sure to be back here. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Come sponsor Retro Talk, where your support keeps us on the air. If you want more information, send an email to WXPM985@gmail.com and we'll send you our brochure.
You've been listening to
Retro Talk with Retro Rose.
here on
98.5 WXPM.
Be back next week, same time, same channel.